Hello, everyone. I feel the call about authority today. Call, speak about authority. A concept that we humans use at each moment in our lives. What is commonly understood as authority is as a body, an entity that has the capacity to impose its own will, its own rules, its own system upon another. Common examples we think of as authorities are the government, the laws of the government under which we are, to which we are subjected, the authority of the police, who has the authority to request of citizens to do specific things in order to keep the peace. There's the authority of the tax collectors, so that citizens pay their requested dues. There's the authority of the parent, as a guide, as a leader of the family to lead in a certain direction. Authorities are very common. They are with us all the time, I would say. The way I see it, the word authority, it comes from the word author, who, as I see it, an author is a creator. An author is the one who manifests something out of himself or through himself or herself, and is able to create a something. The author is the one who chooses what to do at any moment. Chooses which words to write on the page, chooses which colors to apply on the canvas, chooses which lines of code to type on the software, chooses which specific supports will be in this building, will be choosing which ingredients go in the soup. They are the authors of what is being manifested, of the creation. And authority, I believe, is it comes from that meaning. The authority is that which, it's the author, it's the one who provides that drive, that motivation, that to do something. So in a way, it is an imposer of will upon a creation. And we humans are subjected to many authorities as we live. As I see it, when we are born, we have no recognition of authority. We simply are a jumble of organized particles trying to make sense of what is going on. and all we have are these impulses of pleasure and pain and relief and joy and anger and sadness, and all these emotions that are moving us and all the sensations that are going through us. And through affinity to some and aversion to others, we learn to recognize these patterns of behavior that lead us to things that we like or things that we don't like. And then I would say the first human authority that we seem to assimilate is that of the parents. A very natural one. Because parents are there as a welcome committee. I see them. They're a welcome committee into the world. Welcome to the world. You know nothing about this place, so we will teach you about this place. Come, see. Okay, here's food. This is food. See, this is food. Now this is not food. So you don't eat this, but eat this. Yeah, here you go. So even in that small thing, there's the authority that this is what you eat. You do not eat this. There's authority about it. With reason. Some things are not good to get into your digestive system. Some things are poisonous, even though you can get them inside. So there's some authority there. Okay, you should eat this. You don't eat this. What do? Okay, you also should clean yourself. You must clean yourself regularly because the body gets dirty, so clean it. Clean it. The authorities, you don't just pee and poop everywhere or anywhere you want. You go and pee and poop over there because we don't want to pee and poop everywhere, so we want it over there. So the authority is they impose the will of, okay, it's not anywhere, go put it over there. And then we know to do it. And we accept that authority, and we are, well, we sometimes rebel to it, I would say. Sometimes children do not like taking showers. Sometimes children do not like brushing their teeth. Sometimes children do not like doing their homework. You must learn this. Why do I want to learn? Why do I want to learn this? Doesn't matter. Go and learn it. There's the authority of the school. The authority of the school. What to learn, what to pay attention to, what to do. And we move from authority to authority in life, as I see it. At least the main ones, we move over from the authority of the parents to the authority of the teachers. From home to school, and then perhaps to the workplace, we move to the authority of the workplace. And somewhere in between there, we also move over to the authority of the laws of the government, and also to the authority of money. Because we come to realize, money is an important factor in this human life. This is how I get stuff that I want. I want food. I don't make my own food, but they have food. But for me, to give me that food, I need to give them money. Okay, I need to get money. Where do I get money? And then gradually but surely, we learn to recognize money as an authority. It's an important thing. And each of these authorities we learn to assimilate, to bring into ourselves, to accept. It's important to note that oftentimes these authorities, we accept them although we don't understand them. Particularly in the beginning. Like, when a parent is telling us to pee and poop over there, we don't necessarily understand why. We're way young to really reason on those aspects. But we do it anyway. And then we realize that by doing that, we just fit better into the home. We evoke less anger from other people. We evoke less frustration, and suddenly, we're just a little bit more harmonious. Okay, that worked out. We don't understand it, but we do it. Or the authority of money, I would say. Oftentimes we don't quite understand exactly how it works, like not the full picture. Economics is not an obvious thing to grasp. But we do it anyway. Because by following the authority of money, we get stuff. And we like stuff, because it's how we live. So we accept it even without understanding it. Oftentimes we don't understand the laws of the government. Why do I need to stay in this lane? Why do I need to fill out these forms and with all this data that I don't think is really necessary? Oftentimes we don't understand it. And when there is no understanding, oftentimes there is also a factor of rebelliousness that comes along with it. Like, if I just understand something, I'm being forced to do something, obligated to do something, and I don't like it, and I don't understand it, like, why am I doing this? Then there's a natural urge of rebelliousness against it. Like, why waste energy on this thing whose purpose I don't know? I think it's a very appropriate reaction to it, because it's very possible that these impositions of an external authority are not valid, or not correct, or perhaps just not applicable to my particular case. And if that is the case, then it's appropriate to remove that authority, to unlink ourselves from that authority. So that we do not, in fact, waste energy on unnecessary tasks, unnecessary impositions of any kind, or restrictions. So a lack of understanding can bring rebelliousness. And I see a lot of it in the world. Rebelliousness against, for instance, the government. Rebelliousness against paying taxes, rebelliousness against religions, rebelliousness against the police. You go in pretty much any city and there's writings and graffiti everywhere of how much they hate a certain authority, either the police or the government or the taxes or just mistrusting authorities in the world. And I posit that a lot of it is due to a lack of understanding. And I don't mean to say that authorities are always correct. They often are not. And they often indeed are not truly applicable to each individual. But I do believe that understanding why they are there and why they came to be at some point can help oneself come to terms with that urge of rebelliousness that comes out. Because sometimes such a rebelliousness is unnecessary, even when external authorities are impose stale or obsolete rules upon oneself. Because such rebelliousness also takes energy. And it's important also to understand my act, that upon the external authority that perhaps I understand or I do not understand, this act of rebelliousness that is coming out and whose objective is to try to change this relationship. Does it make sense? Do I have a particular goal with what I am doing? Do I know the change that I want to effect, to create? Do I know the exact change that I'm trying to create, or is it just a relationship of rejection? They are different. And the problem with a reaction of simple rejection and attempting to sever a link is that oftentimes it's not well thought. It's not thought through. And if it's not thought through, then it's easy to do doing a destructive act that tries to unsever us from a relationship. But if we don't understand it, then there may be also parts of our life that affect us in ways that we didn't want them to affect us. For instance, in a macro scale, if the population suddenly said, we rebel against taxes, we want no taxes, let's remove the taxes, then maybe they could remove the taxes, but they would very quickly see that all of our common infrastructure and all of our common projects and all the institutions that we used to depend on just suddenly begin to crumble. And that's why I think it's important to understand as much as we are able. Like, if there is an authority, what is it? Why is it there? Why does it have an influence on me? What is its influencing me? Truly, like the whole influence of the complete dynamic. And after all of that, do I want to continue to have this influence, this dynamic upon me? And then that's up to us. Do I want to keep it or not? I don't know. Maybe. Some people will say yes, some people will say no. But that will be an informed choice. And my opinion is that an informed choice, once the process of understanding is complete, is then correct. Is then completely correct, because it comes from oneself, with understanding. As long as it is one's own choice. As long as it is not driven by any external authority. The concept of authority can be brought further inwards. There we go. Monitor? Yes. the concept of authority. I think the concept of authority can be brought further in words. I've been speaking so far about the authority of the parents, the school, the government, the... what else? The police? And these are all authorities that we can choose to accept or reject, or to have any specific dynamic with. Perhaps to accept some, to reject some. Oh, religions as well. Anything. But as I was saying, I think that concept can also be brought further inwards. Because if we look into ourselves, if we explore ourselves in depth, I think that we can come to the realization that oftentimes the choices that we make are not truly our own, even when we think they are. And one obvious example, or two examples I would say, that come to mind are, one of them is that of an addicted smoker who is addicted to smoking tobacco. And perhaps he already knows that it is not healthy for him, that his body is suffering because of his smoking, and he or she wants to stop smoking. And yet they continue to do it. In times when they want relief, in times when they want to feel that completion of the habit that has felt so relieving for them in the past. You just slip one in. And I posit that in those moments, it is not oneself that is making the choice. It is either one's body seeking for relief, or one's emotions seeking for relief. But it is not a choice of who one truly is. Because if there is understanding that this is unhealthy, that this is something that this is something that they do not want to do, and yet they do it, then there is a force inside of them that is imposing their authority upon the person to take a choice that they don't want to. So in a sense, it continues to be an authority. And though it is internal to our person, I would still call it an external authority, because it is not oneself. It is one's body, or one's emotions, one's seeking of relief. And that is not oneself. A similar example is one who has cravings, or someone who is, for example, stressed. Someone who is stressed, and when they are stressed, they eat. Because it feels relieving, because it feels like they are giving themselves something to do. Even though they know, even as they are eating, that there's no true purpose to this. They are not hungry. They are not. They don't really want to eat that, and yet they are giving in to urges inside of them that coerce them to. these internal authorities are with us all of our lives. And they take many of the choices for us that we often think are our own. Our reactions of anger and violence when we encounter something we don't like in another person. Our reactions of addiction or despair. Hatred. Many of them are driven by urges that we have inside ourselves that are not truly us. And that's important to recognize. Because the authority that is leading, that is imposing its will at any particular moment, is the author. It is the creator of the choice that we take at any given moment. We choose at every single moment. Now, when I'm making this video, I am choosing right now to continue saying the words that I am saying. I could have the choice to stop. I could have the choice to say other words. I could have the choice to pause. And I take whichever choice I choose to. You, the listener, the viewer, are choosing to continue to view the video, or you could choose to stop it, or you could choose to rewind it, or you could choose to do absolutely anything else. We choose every moment. And I posit that the active authority at any moment is the one choosing through the being that we are. And so the authority is the creator, in a sense. It's the force, the direction behind the creation of any moment. And as I see it in life, we are born and we are given authorities to rely on that can help us grow. As babies, we would not be able to grow by ourselves at all, but we are given the support of our parents and then the authority of our parents so that we can build into ourselves, assimilate a certain structure that can build the stepping stones so that on which we can grow. Because there is structure in the human world, and we require that structure in order to communicate with each other, to create these complex and useful and beautiful things in the world that we humans know that we do by ourselves and with each other. And so we start with the authority of our parents, and then we slowly move into the authority of of the school, which can also helps us grow. And then we find other authorities in the world. We find authorities of friends, not necessarily as though that friend is leading, but rather as saying, oh, the social relationships, they are also an authority that I can rely on, that I can support myself with, that I can assimilate into myself and understand. And at times, they will choose for me as well. What is important? Oh, friends are important. Okay, so I will do things to keep that up, to maintain those relationships. At some time, friendships become the authority. At some point, perhaps romantic relationships become the authority. And we would do anything for another person. At some point, money becomes the authority. When we realize how important of a social role it has, and then work becomes an authority. And each of them helps us understand another aspect of human life. Yet what I see, what I observe often, is that humans take these authorities, they assimilate them, and then often they seem unable to release them. Because, for example, once the role of the parents is complete, once they have shown us the ways of the world, once they have educated us, once they have built up enough of our bodies in order to be self-reliant, they have taught us enough about our emotions in order to connect with people around us in a proper manner, then we have absorbed the value that their authority held upon us, and we have no longer need of their authority. And it is proper time, I believe, to unlink that authority. That does not mean removing them from our lives. From our lives, they are still the people who raised us. There is much value in them as social relationships, as friendships, perhaps, or not. But the point is that link of authority very often remains. It does not matter how old we are. I see sometimes people who are 60, 70 something years old, and they continue to have that authority in them, that feeling that that they are subject still to the authority of their parents. Not in a literal sense, often, because often perhaps they die. But when one still carries things inside, such as guilt or resentment or anger against, for example, these figures of authority, I posit the relationship of authority still exists. We have not released it, because there is active energy there that still keeps us not free, keeps us tied. Because this relationship of external authority I'm describing it as if it's with an entity over there. But truly the important thing is the link that we allow to be inside us, to affect us, to produce those feelings of guilt or resentment or anger that remain or of nostalgia, perhaps, of those times, those were the real times. I don't mean that one cannot have nice feelings of, that was a nice time, but when they drive us, they have not been released. And I posit that there is a correct time to release all the authorities that we accumulate during our lives. Whether it be the parents, with their raising up and their upbringing of the physical body and of the emotional body, and perhaps of the mental body, the release of academia, after it has done its job of nourishing us with knowledge and skills and understanding and also social relationships, after we have assimilated its values, the authority is no longer valuable to us. It is no longer of value that they be the author of our lives. Perhaps at some point it was, because we were learning. But after we have learned, after we have extracted the value that we needed from them, we don't need them as an authority anymore. And as I said, there can be still relationships of any kind. But they just don't, it doesn't need to drive our lives anymore. And so it goes with other authorities, with the authority of money as well, with the authority of work, with the authority of friendships, with the authority of romantic relationships. All of those, all of them have a certain value for us at a certain time. And during that time, it is also not correct to sever them if they are still being of value. But rather perhaps the time is correct to attempt to fully understand this authority. What is it that I don't yet understand that this authority is trying to teach me? That this authority is trying to, or has the role, not necessarily trying to, but that has the role to give me, that I can learn from it. Each of the authorities. Religion as well. Money, the laws of the government. The laws of the government even, which one feels in this modern world that are so fairly omnipotent in the social world. Even those, they are not omnipotent. And we can choose to accept or reject what we want from them. But it's important also to recognize that if we choose to unlink from an authority, then we are ascribing, I'll use ascribing, then we are ascribing onto ourselves all of the responsibility that that authority used to have when it had its hold upon us. When it had its hold upon us. And remember, I am speaking about one's own link to the authorities. It does not mean that by unlinking myself from the authority of my parents, I will like formally declare myself not a child of my parents anymore, or go to tell them I am no longer your child. Not necessarily. The point is, do I still allow their influence to lead me, to guide me, to control me? And it doesn't even mean that the attitude of the authority needs to change. Like some people have the cases of parents being particularly impinging, like they are actively, for example, meddling in one's own affairs. And while we still recognize them as an authority, then that meddling will affect us and will continue to lead or guide us or control us in some way, even if we're trying to rebel. But once that authority has been removed, has been really released is the word, then no matter what they do, they have no control. Because it's not about them having control over us, it's about us not having control over ourselves. That is the important part. And as we find gradually, one by one, that we can release each of these authorities, each time that we release an authority, we're moving that power that was deferred onto an external authority back into ourselves, back into the power of the chooser in a conscious manner, ideally. And when we do so, we grow. As I said, I believe that there are also external authorities that live within us, that don't reside in specific human bodies outside of us, or in entities outside of us, or that we can see or talk to with air words, but rather sometimes that that live within our own being. Our emotions, our thoughts, our urges, our bodily urges. All of those we can also learn to release. In my experience, understanding them is a critical step. Because by understanding their role, truly the whole of it, not just the part that I don't like, or the part that I think that looks obsolete, or the part that looks ugly, or the part that I really like, the whole dynamic. If we understand the whole dynamic, then we can be ready to look at it, to analyze it, and to think, oh, you know what, that part, oh yeah, I know why that part was there, but that's not relevant anymore. You know what, how about we just remove this part? Now, how does that dynamic change? Like, we can become the managers of that dynamic that lived within us, that lives within us. And if we become the manager, we are taking that control back into ourselves. It is no longer this unconscious thing that, oh yeah, it happens, it's just there, I'm not sure why it's there, but it happens. Oh, I'm just gonna smoke a little cigarette, I'm not sure why, but it just feels good. Or oh, my parents, like, they're just meddling along, but I don't know, whatever, or words. Or like taxes or government, right? I don't understand what they are doing and what they do with the cities and the laws and taxes and whatever. And as long as there is no understanding, then we are not truly capable of taking all that power within ourselves and doing it for ourselves. And in the case, for instance, of the government and its infrastructure, I'm not saying that we needs to take the entirety of the responsibility of, okay, providing for a whole society, and I will take it into myself, and now I am self-reliant, I'm able to completely take care of myself without need for anything. But rather that the choices that one makes are not determined by another authority. That the choices I can make can be influenced by other entities. They can be influenced by my parents and by my friends and by my partner and by my money and by other people's money and by work and by taxes and by government and by my emotions and by my thoughts, and they can be influenced by all of it. That makes sense. They are all these signals that we have in life to move, to live, to choose. But that's the important part. That we not allow all of these signals by themselves to bypass our consciousness and take the choice directly, but rather that each of us is able to, each of us can take all of these signals when there wants to be a bypass into doing something that a signal says, like something as urgent as there's so many examples that come to mind. It's more like, oh, I have no money, I have no way to get money, then I will steal, I guess. Yeah, I will steal. But doing it in like a self-tortured and guilty way that has no other option. Or like feeling, oh, fire, and my hand comes away from it. But rather, usually those tend to be reactions, probably sensible reactions to a situation. But often they do not go through choice. Often they are bypasses. And I believe it's very important that we recognize that we can collect all of those signals, to gather them, to disallow bypasses, to gather them into our consciousness, and from there, choose. From there, from that center, to be our own authority. If we can learn to be our own authority, then all external authorities are unnecessary. They are there. They are possible. They exist. They exist as influences. They exist as signals. But oneself remains at the center as one's true authority and can choose. Even beyond those emotional thoughts that one often feels when one are oneself. Oh, I am angry, so I must project anger, I must project violence, I must impose my will upon that thing. That thing is bad, I must change it. That is also a reaction from an emotion. Or the thoughts, oh, this is the thing that will solve this problem, so I must do this. Oh, this is the optimal way of taking this action, so I must do this. Oh, this is the thing that will get me the most money, I must do this. All of those are bypasses that are not truly going through choice. Because we have the choice. Whenever we take it to do anything we want. No restrictions. No constraints. It's comfortable at times to depend on external authorities. Because if someone has the power of creation, the power of imposing one's will upon what is happening, then one also holds the responsibility when things go wrong. Like if society is going wrong, and society is being led by these governments, then it's very easy to blame the government. They're doing a bad job. I don't understand it, I don't want to understand it, but you're doing it, and so it's your fault that it's going wrong. Or with parents. This is the way you raised me, and I only did what you told me to, and for some reason I ended up like this, and I have all these problems, and I have all these emotions, and I did not develop correctly, so it's your fault. It gives us this sense of a feeling of freedom. A feeling of freedom that of all those responsibilities. Oh, things go wrong? Okay, it's their fault. Their problem. It's not my issue, it's their problem. They did it wrong. And it doesn't really matter whether they actually did it wrong or right. Even if there is such a thing. The problem there is that What is the problem? The problem is that we're relying on them. And in a sense, we're somehow like a plant that cannot hold itself with its own stem. It's just like, I don't have a problem. Something like, I have a problem. I have a chair. And that's me. And that's, I don't know, these are some authority that I'm growing on. And it's like, if these things are going wrong here, then it's this guy's fault, you know? If it's too hard, if it's too uncomfortable, then I can blame it and say, oh, well, it's his fault. It's his fault. It's not me. It's his fault. But I don't have the strength to, or I don't take the action of actually trying to release myself from its authority, because it takes all these muscles inside of me. Maybe I can, you know what, no, it's tiring, I'm tiring, I'm just gonna stay here. Yeah, it sucks, it's uncomfortable, but that's how it is, you know? Building up the muscles, building up the balance to release oneself from a certain responsibility or from a certain authority takes effort. And so that's why, as I was saying, it's comfortable to rely on these authorities. It's not me, it's them. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to do what they say and things work out. Okay. I'm just going to fill out this form. What does it do? I don't know. I'm just going to work and they give me money and that's enough. I don't know. I don't want to know anything else. We can do that. We can keep doing that for a very long time. But it's just important to know that while we rely on these external authorities, we are not giving ourselves the opportunity to grow by ourselves. While we remain under the authority of anything, of parents, of academia, of money, of friends, of a partner, of comfort, of a certain structure in life, of one's own mindset, of one's own set of beliefs, of one's own religion, of one's own sports practices, of one's own culture, anything, of even one's own body. We are not allowing ourselves that particular opportunity to grow. And I think that's missed opportunities. Because here in life, we can grow. And to me, that is one of the core goals that we have in life. Growing at all the levels. We grow our bodies, we grow our emotions, we grow our thoughts, we grow our knowledge, we grow our social contacts. But then can we grow ourselves? That center that we truly are. There is no substitute. And that's why I wanted to speak about authority today. Because when we recognize its influence and its role upon our lives, of both the external authorities and the internal authority, true authority, then we have more complete knowledge, a more complete sense of the human system and dynamic with which to guide our lives. That's all.